Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. James stood at the top of the stairs with a mix of excitement and fear, carefully putting on eyeliner in the bathroom mirror after having already added a thin layer of makeup and smoothed it out. She had on a white top and a black skirt that ends at the knee. All of them were from her mom's clothes. It was thrilling, the thought of being able to spend the night as a girl, something she did all the time. What made her afraid was the fear of getting caught. James almost certainly thought that her parents did not think she used their time apart to be a girl. When she was a teen, her parents let her stay home by herself during the many nights they were away on business. A friend, Mrs. Potter, came by to make sure everything was okay. Even though Mrs. Potter always came over at 6:30, it was easy to plan for her. James never thought that she would find out about her hobby. Her true worry was that her mother might find that her things weren't put back the way she had been leaving them, so she could ruin a really nice pair of socks, or that she would notice her makeup didn't last as long as it used to. Susan, James's mother, and Charles, her father, were both lawyers. They worked in the same law office right after law school and became friends. They now kept a small but busy private business that required them to travel at least 4 or 5 times every month. They almost never went to the same place and were often gone at the same time, but sometimes they were in different places at the same time. It had been during these times that James planned her nights out as Jane, the girl she liked to turn into. This evening, James chose to dress like one of the interns that worked in her parents' office. Besides the skirt, she also chose a simple black pump. She had already set up a gold chain collar, gold bracelets, and a pair of small hoop earrings. She often felt grateful that she lived in a time when a boy could have both ears pierced and shoulder-length hair without fear. Her parents had enough money to send her to a private school in the area. She fit right in with the upper-class kids who were upset at school. They went to Westwood. The only time her sometimes mixed looks caused trouble was when she was out on the town and some jock kids from the public school nearby chose to pick on her. Then, the people in town also knew that her parents were lawyers and did not want to risk getting sued. After the dress-up, James felt very soft and girly that night, taking a long, hot bath and shaving her legs, which still didn't have much hair on them. The mustache was also pretty light, and she only had to shave it every few days. Once she had shaved, her face was as smooth as a girl's. Her style of clothes has always been a bit older than she was. It could have been the stylish clothes and suits that her mom always wore. She knew there was a lot to do, of course, since she didn't have any sisters to borrow from, so she had to get by with what her mom had in her closet. That is why, while she sometimes wished she could dress like the girls did for the latest styles, she also knew she was years ahead of her peers when it came to fashion at school and other young women. She was thinking while she was putting on her makeup about Jennifer, the girl who had just graduated from college and started working as a clerk for her mom. Her makeup and one of her clothes were what she was trying to mimic. She had noticed that Jennifer's makeup was always great and maybe even too heavy to wear during the day. But she's smart. The way she dressed and talked made her just the kind of girl James wanted to look like. James was deep in thought when she felt her stomach drop to the floor, hearing the front door open and close. It couldn't be Mrs. Potter. She'd already been there. She only had one parent that could be it. But her mother was in Los Angeles until Monday, and her dad wasn't due back until Saturday night. Both of them had come home early before, but they always called to let her know first. Who could it be? And how could she hide? James understood that to reach her room, she would have to walk down the hall. It wasn't a long distance, but in their new house, the upstairs was open to the downstairs. Could she really make it? She quickly gathered her courage and knew she would have to carefully put on her makeup again later on. Then she peered out the door and saw that the coast was clear. No one was in the entryway downstairs, and it looked like no one was in the hall leading to her room. She felt a little better that she could wear socks and get to her room without any trouble. When James took a deep breath and ran for her room, 8 steps away, she stopped dead in her tracks at step 7. Her father was standing next to her bed with the shirt she was going to wear. When he looked up, he saw his son standing still in the doorway, very scared.
Dear James, I got home early, Charles said. Sure, Dad, I see. You usually call, James said in a scared voice. I understand. I believe I forgot. The meeting caused a lot of stress. I'm sorry to catch you this way. I think we need to talk about something, Charles replied.
Hey, Dad. I'm really sorry. You must really think I'm crazy. It's really embarrassing. May I go change? I promise I'll call you as soon as I make a change. The words James used were so quick and full of worry that they scared her dad. He only smiled. James, no, I do not want you to change. Stay in your room for now. Do not do anything until I return. I need to think about something. Just wait here, Charles instructed. Some of the stress went away from James. She was able to get to the bed and sit down because Charles walked out of the room. James could hear her parents' room door open and shut quietly. James thought, oh no, he's very angry. James knew that her dad almost never yelled when he was mad. In fact, her dad was known for being able to keep her feelings in check in court, always being cool and quiet, even when things got heated. The more tense things got, the lower Charles's voice would get, and his voice was barely above a whisper when he told James to wait here and say something quietly. That meant he was really closing something up. James felt bad as she thought about her angry dad being in the other room. She wanted to change into boy clothes and act like nothing happened. But her dad told her not to change, so she didn't. Putting on the shirt was all that was left to do. After that, James put on the simple black shoes that were right under her shirt, being next to the bed. Putting on the shoes was almost automatic, done to finish off the outfit. James made fun of herself for that, thinking it was silly and most likely the last time she would look like a girl. It had been an hour, and James was beginning to get really unsure. Why wasn't her dad coming out of his room? At some point, it had been 45 minutes since she heard the shower running. Her dad must be giving things a lot of thought. James was very tense, walking around her room and sitting on her bed or at her desk. She tried to read, but it was not possible. Every now and then, she would stand up and look out the door to see if her dad was there. Just as she was about to go check on her dad, she heard the door to her parents' bedroom open. When she heard the door open, James sat down on her bed after running to it and unknowingly smoothed her skirt. Her heart was beating fast in her chest as she waited for her dad to show up. James's heart almost stopped when Charles finally showed up. Her dad walked into James's room wearing a fitted gray suit made for women. In fact, James had seen that suit in her mom's closet and had always wanted to wear it. But it looked so pricey that she wasn't brave enough to try it on. She thought that it had to be brand new because she hadn't seen her mom wear it yet. Her dad paused while James tried to take it all in with wide eyes. She looked at her dad, who looked great. The suit was made of fine wool gabardine and had a skirt that was knee-length and a jacket that fit well and had 4 buttons. In the jacket, Charles wore an off-white silk shirt and a double string of pearls. The suit looked great with sheer tights that had a little gray and black pumps with a round toe that were 2 inches tall and had a block heel. The dark brown hair on her dad's head was now shoulder length and styled just right, with a beautiful wave that broke over her face. And James couldn't believe how beautiful her dad's face looked. Her dad's makeup looked like it had just been applied by a professional at a makeup store stand. When Charles saw how shocked her son was, she smiled and said, "What do you think?" James was sure that the voice she heard was her dad's, but softer, higher, and more feminine. James answered in the feminine voice she had learned just for Jane. "I think you look, lovely, Dad," James answered. "I'm sorry if I scared you earlier, James. I think there are a few things we need to talk about. To begin, when I'm dressed like this, I guess you shouldn't call me Dad. Why don't you try something else? My name is Trisha. Aunt Trish would be better. I put this on," Trisha explained. "Okay, Aunt Trish," James said slowly. "What's going on here?" she thought. "My famous lawyer father tells me to call her Aunt Trish." She forgot for a moment that she was also wearing a skirt and shirt until Aunt Trish said, "I guess James might not be the right name for you the way you're dressed. What should I call you?" "I like the name Jane a bit." "Okay, Jane, let's talk in the living room, downstairs. First, though, I think you should go fix your hair and finish putting on your locks." Trisha winked and said, "I'm sure you know how. I'll make us some tea down below." After that, Trisha got up and went for the door, leaving Jane sitting on the bed, confused. Trisha yelled from the top of the stairs, "Hurry up, sweetheart. We need to talk about many things." Jane got up, grabbed her makeup from the bed, and went back to finish up in the bathroom. She had a lot of things going through her head. How often does Dad do this? Does Mom know? Why haven't I seen her dress this way? Jane finished putting on her makeup with shaking hands. After putting on foundation and eyeliner, she carefully brushed on light pink eye makeup on her upper lid and paired it with more of a dusty rose color on her lower lid. Then a little blush and a matte brownish red lipstick were carefully put on to finish it off. Last was hair, and since Jane had learned a long time ago how to curl her long hair into a girly style with the right skills, she used hairspray and was done quickly. After Aunt Trish went downstairs and Jane was putting on her earrings and heading down below, Jane, who was still dizzy from all the excitement and nerves, held on tight to the railing as she went down to the living room. Listening to her father, she called out from the kitchen, "Come down the stairs! Honey, just sit down on the couch and I'll be right over," Trisha said. Soon after, Trisha walked into the living room with a tray that had a teapot, 2 cups, a sugar bowl, and a small milk pitcher, which she carefully placed on the side table. Jane was shocked by how smooth and girly her father was. She smoothed out her skirt as she sat on the couch, putting her feet together on the edge of the couch and letting out a soft sigh. She took Jane's hands in her hands, and Jane felt them for the first time. Trisha was wearing a soft gray dress, and her nails were nicely curved and painted pink. Dad's hands didn't look like that when she got home, did they? Jane thought to herself. She took a moment and then said, "Now, Jane, I'm sorry. It will take some time to get used to the new name. I need you to know from the start that I'm not mad at all. Yes, I was surprised, but not unhappy. You can see that I also like to dress like a woman," she went on, almost with a giggle. "I knew I had to tell you one day. I had no idea it would turn out this way. It's kind of easier for me since I know you get it. I believe I understand. I knew I wasn't the only boy who liked to dress like girls, but I didn't know that my dad did it too. Aunt Trish, how long have you been dressing like a woman?" Jane had become surprisingly at ease. Aunt Trish was easier to talk to than her dad. "Yes, sweetheart. I've been dressing myself since I was a little younger than you. I used to borrow clothes from your Aunt Judith. We were about the same size when I was your age. She found out eventually and helped me learn how to be a girl and get my own things. But your grandparents had no idea. I can't imagine having this conversation with them. Does Mom know?" That was the question Jane had been thinking about almost from the first time she saw her dad dressed as a woman. Her mother must be worried about something because it was clear that both she and her father were dressed in her clothes. "She does know, of course. She knew about my little hobby before we got married. She didn't know what to think about it at first. But she already knew I was a good person, so she quickly accepted that it was a part of who I am as a person. I understand that I'm lucky to have your mother as a wife. Not many would be as understanding," Trisha explained. "That means Mom doesn't mind if you wear her clothes?" "Of course she minds. I'm a bit larger than your mom and likely would stretch her clothes. What about the clothes you're wearing?" Jane asked, almost immediately knowing the answer. The skirt, jacket, and shirt, and most likely the shoes, nylons, and other things her dad was wearing underneath, must be hers. "Why, yes, this is my outfit, Jane," Trisha confirmed Jane's assumptions. "There are lots of clothes in my room. I can wear a few things that belong to your mom, and she can wear some of my stuff. We get the same size in pants and nylons, for example, but we mostly have separate closets. Mine has both men's and women's clothes. Jane suddenly realized why not everything she tried on from her mom's closet and trunks fit her, and some of the shoes were just right. Some were just right, some were a little small. It must be because the clothes that didn't fit quite right weren't really her mother's, but all the things that did fit were her dad's. She'd been borrowing her dad's clothes the whole time without knowing. That means all the pretty dresses and skirts and different things I've worn over the past year or so are yours, Jane asked. Yes, there were times when I thought someone was moving my things. I thought it was your mom, though. A few times the thought occurred to me that it could have been you. But if I talked to you about it, I would have had to own up to it. It looks like I wasn't ready to do so then. We can at least talk about it openly now. Please forgive me if I caused any harm. I worked really hard to put everything back the way I found it. I even cleaned and hung some things back up in just the right spot. The 2 times I put runs in pantyhose, I almost had a heart attack and couldn't put them back in the drawer.
Jane, don't stress about anything. You never harmed anything. The shirts you washed looked better afterward than before. Also, your mom and I have a lot of nylons. We wouldn't notice if a couple of pairs went missing. I guess we're now going to be buying underwear for 3 people.
Are you okay with all of this? How could I not be? It would be a bit selfish of me to say no, Aunt Trish replied. I believe we need to start getting you some of your own girls' clothes. A closet for a girl. Jane could barely contain herself when she thought about having her own girls' clothes. Hey, Dad, Trish. Aunt Trish, whoever. Thank you so much. I've been scared for a long time about what might happen if you ever found out. I'm the happiest boy or girl in the whole world right now. After that, both of them laughed. But the laughs were more like those of an aunt and her niece than a dad and her kid. Aunt Trish, I need to go to the bathroom right now, so please excuse me. I'm so excited. Of course, dear, I understand. When you come back, we could talk about shopping. I'm sure you have some ideas about what you'd like to get. Thanks for watching. Check out Patreon if you want to have early access to the other parts. If not, it will be online in a couple of days.